Hello and welcome to the I Am Woman project, where every week we have deep, thought-provoking and interesting conversations with thought leaders, change instigators, rule breakers and creative minds who think differently, sparking creativity and inspiration. Our special guests on our show cover a variety of topics just for you, and they share their personal stories to inspire, motivate and empower you, our listener. The I Am Woman podcast is produced for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at www.catherineplano.com. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get into the show. Today we have the powerhouse Nikki Fogden-Moore, known as the Mojo Maker, author of Vitality, the smart guide to getting the life and body you want, especially designed for super busy people with no fad diets and no strict gym regimes. And now with the launch of her second book, Fitpreneur, the ultimate leader, healthy, wealthy and wise. Healthy, less hard work and more energy to work hard at what you love. Wealthy, part of the ultimate leadership in business and in life is assuring your own legacy. And wise, mindset is everything. Vision, mission, and values align us to our professional and our personal success. Today, our guest is a global corporate and private coach and speaker with over 2 decades experience in bringing both personal and commercial vitality to life for Fortune 500 CEOs, entrepreneurs, and high-performing companies. Head trainer for women's health and fitness for 4 years, Nikki is a regular contributor for Huffington Post, Australian Financial Review, CEO Magazine, Marie Claire, and other leading media. She's a self-confessed nature junkie. You can usually find Nikki somewhere outside adventuring if she's not in the boardroom with her clients. It's time to take a holistic approach and tune into this inspirational woman. Enjoy. So today we have a very special guest for you. We've got Nikki Fogden-Moore. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Catherine. It's great to be on the show.
So before we got on the show, I was just saying to Nikki, she has a new book out, and I was just going through the book and picking out some little golden nuggets for our listeners. But before we do that, let's go into, let's unpack, I should say, Nikki, and tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us your story.
Oh, wow. So you're throwing that straight back to me right in the beginning.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm Nikki Fogden-Moore. I'm known as the Vitality Coach or the Mojo Maker to most of my clients. I specialize in working with, really, really high-performing individuals and companies on how to find their ultimate blend with personal and commercial success. So healthy, wealthy, wise are my 3 core pillars. I work predominantly with founders, CEOs, and pretty sort of strong companies, but also I work a lot on community projects for startups and building founder vitality and mindset to help small to medium-sized businesses really create sustainable success. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I've got a background in business and advertising and branding for 20 years and also in health and well-being. So funnily enough, I was the head trainer for Women's Health and Fitness magazine in Australia for 4 years, and I've been running Dude and CEO retreats for 12 years now, starting in Europe, and most of my career was over in Europe and Amsterdam, London, and also a little bit of time in New York. And it's great to now be based in Australia and working with some global minds, but having this beautiful backyard of ours to call home.
Oh, wow. That's very impressive. And it sounds like you had lots of fun as well. So let's talk about your book a little bit, the Fitpreneur. Talk us through a little bit about the ultimate leader when you're talking about healthy, wealthy, and wise. The one thing that I really stood out for me is about spending that time, instead of being on autopilot, it's actually spending that time with yourself and slowing down. That was one of the things that really resonated with me. But I know from experience that's easier said than done. So what are some tricks that you would like to give to our listeners? Maybe 3 hot tips on how do we actually slow ourselves down enough to sort of listen to our body?
I think first of all, I'm someone that is very high octane. I love what I do, so I have a lot of energy and I can work really long hours. I think the first thing is you've got to give yourself permission to figure out what your mental DNA is. And, there's a lot of social construct around how we should work and what we should be doing, and a lot of stories attached to our career development. And the first thing I would say is figure out what's going to be the right landscape for you and what's important to you and what you value the most. And if you do love your job and it excites you and it lights you up and it builds your sense of contribution and tenacity and enables you to have a great life, then I think the number one is you shouldn't have to apologize for that. But in order to have sustainable success, we must have a trifecta of areas in our lives that are working. And that is making sure that we're healthy. We need mental and physical agility to make good decisions, to reduce stress, to be able to sustain long hours, and also balancing family, friends, and me time. And I think health and well-being is just a part and a co-requisite of being a great leader. The other thing is wisdom. To be a great leader is to know that we don't know everything. It's to have the right people around us. It's to continuously be curious and to avoid fear-based decisions. And then, of course, our wealth. Our wealth isn't just how we run a balance sheet on the bottom line for a business, but also making sure your personal finances, your legacy planning, and your day-to-day operations for your own life are just as tight and robust as what you're doing for your business. I think it's 93 or 94% of stress related in the workplace is because people are worried about their personal finances, and they're very, very concerned, and they're anxious, and it builds up, and they think they can push that sort of thing under a rock. And I think a real leader is understanding that in order to have the ability to sustain loving what you do and going through the peaks and troughs of any type of business, you need to be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
I love that. And the thing that really resonates with me is when you said it lights you up. And I know this for a lot of our listeners that are entrepreneurs. For example, you have the right landscape, you do what you love, and you love it so much that it actually never feels like you work a day in your life. And that in itself is a trap, I find, for myself anyway. So I work and work and work, and I push myself because there's always that, I always say there's always light at the end of the tunnel. But I hear that a lot of entrepreneurs go through this same thing where they love what they do, and they work crazy hours, sometimes, 12, 14, 16 hours in a day, because they're enjoying what they do. So how do we create that fine balance when we're talking about stepping away and just to pause?
You're right. And I think it's a really interesting conundrum for a lot of people, is it's easy to kind of get sucked into the work vortex and use it as a bit of a crutch and say, but I love what I do. And actually you have to have the ability to be a CEO of your life as well as your business, which means what do you really want? Why are you working so hard? What do you want your own personal landscape to look like? And taking that regular 90-day plan and considering, who you want to be spending time with, what you want for your family. And life is short. This is it. There's no more time like the now. We actually physically have no more time than we actually do right now. Every hour that goes by is, creating less and less time for us to enjoy what we have. So that ability to be present is really crucial to help make good, thorough decisions across all areas. And you don't want to look up a few years later and think, is that it? And most of the CEOs or the founders that I work with, they've had a lot of collateral damage along the way for their success. And they've kind of looked up and they're like, whoops, so I've really kind of lost my mojo. I might have, come through a broken marriage and lots of teams and staff, and what was it all for? So being present and being able to understand what's really truly important to you, what's driving you, makes you a fantastic leader. It gives you transparency and a great GPS to know that you should have a blend of work and life, not necessarily a balance.
Do you know, and I think, Nikki, that brings me to the next point. In your book, you have this Vitality bank account and where to find the balance. And I guess for our listeners that haven't got the book yet, I'd love to talk through that, because I think that was a bit of a aha moment for me. When we look at the deposits, what are the deposits, and then the withdrawals? So would you like to talk us through that for our listeners, please?
Oh, that's a really, really great question. I'm glad you brought that up. I put that in there because what I do with a lot of coaching is I get people to sort of map out where they sit now. Like, we're very happy to look at our bank balance and see where there's debits and credits, but quite often we're mortgaging our own lives and we're always working on borrowed time. And something that you said in the beginning of this podcast together was, it's just, I'm just going to slog through the next bit, and you sort of wait for that next epiphany and you'll just get through the next bit. So, the art is seamless success. It should be thriving, not striving. And that means considering where you're putting deposits into your areas of life, your health and well-being, what is contributing to your overall success as an individual, not just commercially. Are you spending quality time with those that you love, putting the iPad down, reading stories to your kids, running around, being fit and healthy with your family, enjoying experiences, passing stories and legacies on? Those are all contributions or deposits to a very enriched life. When we mortgage our time, we work late, we don't feed ourselves well, we, undernourish our brains and our nutritional capacity. We starve ourselves with the people that we love because we're too busy to spend time with them, and we end up just in the red all the time. So having a little vitality bank assessment every 30 days is actually a really cool tool to figure out if you're putting deposits and growing your vitality bank balance, or if you're just constantly making withdrawals, and one of these days it's not going to pan out very well.
And it's a bit of a, like, I see how when you're talking about we get caught up in this vortex of working, and we do tend to put our family aside at times because we need to get this project done, or we've got a deadline, or we have a timeline. And then, you can't buy that time back. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's about making that time now. And I think for me, the other piece that I really liked out of the book was the Fitpreneur Model. I loved the way that you broke it down into 3 areas, which was healthy, wealthy, and wise. Because to me, when I actually went through that, I could look at that and go, wow, there's a lot there that are out of balance for me. And for me, it's more so that, and I hear this quite often, we, because of, especially for entrepreneurs, when they've got this big audacious goal they're working through, they do tend to put their their health aside, whether it's sleep or even exercise. And I'm one of those. And you do get caught in a trap. Now, I know for me, I've tried to actually block out time in my calendar to create that space, because, you create that space to make it happen. But then other things come, come along, and then it's almost like it takes over that space that you've created for yourself. So what would be some of those non-negotiable things that you live by to make this balance really happen for you?
I think you've touched on something which I always go back to as the truth with people that goal set or create vision boards or make lists. If you don't really want to be doing something, you're not going to do it. You're going to let other things creep in. So if you are planning me time or friends and family time or moments with your kids in your agenda, and you're allowing something else to swipe that off, then you really have to ask yourself, is that the truth? Do you want to be doing that? So the fundamental to success is being present enough to recognize that what's on your list is vital. And, we make so many lists because we think they look good. And when I ask people to do their values, I think most people just default go to values that they think they want to be seen for, but actually your value is your biggest kryptonite. And if you're putting things in your agenda, you should be asking yourself at the winning week time, when you map it all out, is this vital for me? Is it a non-negotiable? And that the first answer that comes up is the right answer. The rest is just rationalization or your ego. So if you want to be spending time with your kids on a Wednesday evening, is it the right thing to do? Ask yourself that. And if the answer is yes, then that's a non-negotiable. And I think that, this word of work-life balance, I just don't believe in that. By default, balance is a yin and a yang. It's an up and a down. It's always finding and compartmentalizing and kind of, it's one or the other. And when you blend, you don't start apologizing. You just accept that a healthy life is spending all areas with purpose and being present. So not because you have to do it, but because you want to do it. So if you look at your week and you put things in there like working out or, taking your daughter to the park or walking the dog, whatever it is, if you want to do it, you'll make it happen. But if you think you have to do it, chances are you'll let something else come in the way.
It's so true, isn't it? And it depends, when you're talking about values, it depends on what area of your life, because there's times where I've spoken to entrepreneurs, and when you ask them, like, what is it that you value out of life? What's most important? A lot of the stuff that is most important to them, they actually don't do. They actually not allow it to happen.
And then you have to ask yourself, is it really that important? Because at the end of the day, we are the CEO of our life. So nobody else is responsible. Life is by choice, not chance. And I'm a bit of a tough coach. I think it's predominantly why I work with very, very savvy, straight down the line people. I work a lot with male dominated industries because I'm not there to fluff feathers and say, oh, poor you. I'm there to say, this is your opportunity. You've got no more time than you do right now. What are you going to do with it? And if you live with intent and purpose, you make great decisions. If you live with clarity and mental agility, you make great decisions, and you don't have to apologize for those because you're transparent about it. And you can ask people for the right help and understanding. You can go to your family and say, listen, we're coming up to a big campaign. I'm in the middle of hiring new staff. It's going to be a busy time. What I need from you is, what would you like from me in return? It's this conversation rather than assuming everything's going to work out. And also, it's not a blame game. If you're busy, you're letting your week run you. And I always use a little analogy. I'm not curing cancer. I'm not sitting in a laboratory changing thousands of lives with a groundbreaking invention. So stuff happens. Things are going to get in the way. And I think we have to give ourselves permission to really just stand in our truth for a second and think, is this vital? Is this really what I need? And not filling the blank spaces with things that aren't really serving us.
And I also love what you spoke about before about there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's a blend. And I think that I always say it's work-life integration. And the moment that I put that into practice, I wasn't as stressed out. I wasn't so, oh my God, where's the balance? Oh, I didn't take time out. Oh, I didn't do this. It's so much easier. I like the word blending. It really resonates with me.
Yeah, and I think you'll find that quote in the book. You learn to integrate, not negotiate your time. It's a big pillar for me. A lot of keynote speaking is on around how do we integrate our life and our work. And that's the thing. All of a sudden, you sort of feel relief because you're no longer having to compartmentalize and give one thing up for the other. So it is purely a mindset. It's not rocket science. We all know this. The question when you're listening to great interviews like with Catherine or when you're absorbing all this information is that you have just as much of the ability to be in charge of your week as anyone else. I mean, if you've got sick children or perhaps you're going through your own things, that's just part of life as well. As it's all about down to planning your weeks and being present and appreciating what you do have and not constantly waiting for this little magic pill to drop in where everything's going to suddenly be fine, because life is demanding and we should be productive and not always talking about being busy.
So true. And Nikki, you also mentioned before ego. How do we know when it's ego getting in our way?
So easy, so easy. I have this great expression, your ego is not your amigo. In fact, there's a beautiful book by Michael Singer called The Untethered Soul. And there's another book by a friend of mine, Mike Duff, called The Power Within. So, our ego is the stuff that sits in our head. Our amigo is our internal GPS. And as I said before, the first answer you get is your internal GPS. The second, third, and fourth answers are what's in your head. They're the stories we tell ourselves. I've nicknamed my ego Bob. Bob's the guy that's always getting you to change the channel, or he's always trying to get you to post-rationalize things, or he's not letting you just make one decision and stick with it. And I think that's just purely stories in society, and you've really got to trust your gut more than ever. We're in a society where there's so much information out there. I call it serial absorption. And people are so busy absorbing and waiting for some epiphany, they forget to just do things. So sometimes you just have to put one foot forward and trust that you've got this. And I think there's a strong power when you lead from within.
I love that, and I love the fact that you've called your ego Bob. It's interesting. We had another lady that we interviewed, and we were talking about your imposter or your saboteur, and I was actually saying that I believe that we all have multi-selves, and I think that the way that I've worked with my imposter is actually to name it. And I actually said it was mine is Roger, and I did it so that I could actually externalize it and work with it, because what I realized is that my saboteur, my imposter, would get in the way of every time I would succeed at something, or if my relationship did really well, or was about to hit that next level in my business, I would sabotage it. So do you see this happen often?
Well, I think it happens on a minute by minute basis, and the first resolution or understanding you've got to have is that your ego is never going to go. Those stories are always going to be there. I think people think that it's like becoming a Buddhist monk. You get a certificate and it's all fixed. That's not true. Daily om or daily presence and daily connection means checking in and realizing those stories are with you from when you were young, and it's how society, you've just got to recognize it, and you go, well, there you go again, and you can hear it, but you can put it aside. So you recognize it, acknowledge it's there, but you go back to your gut. And that's just sometimes when we're going through very, very productive days or lots of challenges in our lives, you might need to do that 7 times a day. And for other people, it might be once a month. It is so dependent on how you're living your life and what you're going through. But the level of awareness and the recognition, the mindfulness means that you almost can laugh because you recognize the story versus the truth.
And it doesn't matter, like, for me, I've been doing this kind of work for years, and I still am, am surprised. I can't believe I didn't see this, that I've been doing this for the last God knows how many years, 24 years or so. And I think we never stop learning. And I think that if we have that open mindset set and become more aware of what the words we use and how we behave, I think this is when we start shining light in those dark spots, where those, whatever you want to call them, are hiding in those areas, the deep part of our unconscious mind.
Yeah, and I think also we can be so hard on ourselves, and sometimes the biggest advice is just go do the work, just get stuff done. And, at the end of the day, it's not goals on paper don't work, you do. That's how you get results. And the successful strategy of all the people that I work with and the life that I'm very lucky to lead is just because you just have to pull your socks up sometimes and go do it. And it's a very refreshing, and it's engaging, and it's challenging, and all those things. And we shouldn't push those feelings down. That's the breadth of being a wonderful human, is having a range of emotions that take us through and make us realize when we're evolving. And so my motto is evolution, not resolution, and to work with my clients on giving them a really clear and simple roadmap. You don't have to turn your life upside down. You just have to make a few small tweaks.
I love some of your quotes, by the way. They're right throughout the book. They're very, I think they hit you right in the right spot. So I love them.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I have a dictionary. So sometimes I just make up these sunny quotes, and other times I've read them somewhere. And I mean, when I was 12, I read the quote, "Design the life you love, or you'll get the one you're given." And that's never left me. So I think it's always been my internal motto from a very, very young age. And I, but mottos don't work unless you do as well. And I think sometimes we can spend a lot of time looking at what's online on social media or looking at other people that inspire us, but they're all going through exactly the same thing. And there's nothing more prevalent than living a life that you love on your terms with the people that you love around you, and having the strength and the tenacity to figure out what that really is.
I love that. On motto or affirmations, I could see that if you actually constantly are saying this in your mind, it helps you drive in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's another little point as well. I think a lot of people put mantras up, but they don't. It doesn't really connect. So make your own one up if you have to, or choose a hashtag for the week. But make sure it connects, because, if something doesn't resonate with you, you can be inspired by someone else, but it has to be relevant to you. It has to be real time, and you have to want to fight someone for that goal. You have to really believe in it, and then you're on the right path.
I love that. Choose a hashtag for the week. I just wrote that down. Yeah. I love that. That's really cool. Yeah.
All my clients have winning weeks, and they have a hashtag for the week. Yeah.
That's cool. So, Nikki, during your whole journey or your adventure, what would have been some of your greatest lessons?
Oh, God. I mean, this is $1 million question, isn't it? I feel like I learn every day. I feel like when I wake up, I learn things. And I'm a very all-encompassing person, I guess. I've been given an extremely beautiful gift from whatever it was, from my parents or from the universe, that I'm connected to lots of different levels on this earth and lots of different people. And it's a pleasure to do what I do and to work with the people that I get to work with and hang out with. I learn about myself every day. I learn about nature and life and business. And I think, when you approach every day with curiosity rather than fear, your filter changes. Your aperture is suddenly a beautiful color, and you're not sitting there, afraid of making decisions or afraid of someone else's movements. You see everything as an opportunity to learn and grow. And if you can grow through life, you'll go through life in a really beautiful way.
And that's a really important point. What you just said is go through life with a sense of curiosity, because that was when you actually approach everything with a sense of curiosity, it's almost like that childlike energy. You want to have fun with
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think when we're making big decisions in business, and when we're scaling our businesses, or maybe you're going for funding, or you're running venture capital, or you're trying to build a board of directors, I think once we get more responsibility, we sometimes are afraid to show that we don't know everything. But the real leadership comes from understanding where the gaps are and wanting to surround yourself with real experts. And that's intriguing, because those discussions become really intriguing, and not to be afraid of someone that you think might be copying you or so. Like, I think we just got to stand in your own light, and there's so much going around in the world. You've just got to understand what's important to you, and also who is important to you and how you like. So my most important value is kindness. So it's not about budgets. It's about working with leaders and people, and working together with collaborations with people that are ultimately kind people and that ultimately want to give back. And then I know we're going to gel. But if someone doesn't have that kind of DNA of kindness, it's my kryptonite. I'm not going to work well with that person. So knowing who you are enables you to work to the best of your ability as well.
And that is so important, because, that comes up quite often when I work with some individuals, when they're starting up a business, or they're still, I guess, seeking or working on their personal brand. Quite often they are copying of somebody else, or might use somebody else as a point of leverage. And I always say, no, bring it back to yourself. Let's go into you. What are your superpowers? What are your gifts? What is it that you love to do? And bring that to life. Not worry about what other people do around you. And there is that fear of people stealing your work or copying from you. And I don't believe in that. I believe in there's no such thing as competition. There's collaboration. What are your thoughts around that?
I think that you can get so caught up in watching what someone else is writing, and we're all on this earth for the same purpose, to do our best and to give back, and whatever people draw inspiration on. I think definitely now everything's online, and for someone that writes their own IP and has done for a long time, and you could really sort of do your head in about that sort of thing. I think at the end of the day, you have to rise above it. If it is a direct violation of copyright, then that's a very, very easy discussion. I think about, sort of Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, Dr. Don DeMartini, Barack Obama, all these beautiful quotes that are around the world. Of course, people are going to get inspired and want to utilize those. My only thing is I say to people, attribute. If you borrow something from someone or that person inspires you, then pay it forward and say, I just got this off Catherine. I love this quote. Tag that person, because that's only beautiful energy that will come back to you as well.
I like that, pay it forward. And you have something in your book about giving back, where it starts with yourself, give back to home, give back to work. Do you want to talk us through that one?
The ultimate vitality is 6 pillars, and the 6th pillar is being able to give back. And often I think we determine giving back by large amounts of financial philanthropy, but actually giving back is a sticky note on someone's desk to say, hey, you look great today, or thanks so much, or it's spending a couple of extra minutes at breakfast with your kids without your phone and going, how are you? It's talking to the person in the line and buying them coffee. It's making people feel significant. It's recognizing that your neighbors have names and maybe they need help. And it's all these kind of community-based areas. Giving back is also understanding that you need time out for yourself in order to be there for others. So it's a very, very crucial part of being a wonderful human and a wonderful leader is able to pause and to think, how can I contribute back? Not because you want to be recognized or you want to slap your logo somewhere, but because you genuinely want to pay it forward. I call it racking it up, random acts of kindness every day.
I love that. And it's in the giving that we receive. And even in giving time for yourself, it's amazing when I've actually taken time out where I've gone, okay, I'm going on a holiday for 2 weeks and just shut shop. It's amazing the things that come to fruition when I actually surrender and actually take that time out and pause. It's that energy thing that it's a cosmic thing. I can't explain it, but in that time when we actually give back to ourselves or give back your energy to somebody else to help them shine, it always comes back. That's how I always say it's in the giving that we receive.
Yeah, and that comes from being comfortable in yourself. Like when you truly are comfortable in yourself and you know you're enough, then you've got plenty of room to give. And it's also not a story about how much you have to give or what you have to do. Just follow your own vibe. I like to buy someone a coffee. I like to give little treats to my staff or leave little text messages even to say you rocked it today. I think it's recognizing people when they least expect it, and it's the small things that make the greatest impact.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Nikki, one other question that we always love to ask our women of inspiration is that we talk about pain points. Everyone has pain points, whether it's in business or whether they're personal pain points. What would be some of your biggest pain points in business that you stumble across?
Oh, wow, that's that's another great question. I think for me, there's many pain points, finding great staff and ensuring I brief properly and wanting to make sure that I deliver like over and above for my clients and balancing everything, looking after my family, my parents, and still delivering on work. And pain points come when we're growing the most. It could be, losing clients and gaining clients. It could be making a shift in your business. There's so many. And I used to see them as pain points, and I know that sounds like a strange way to see it, but now every single thing that comes up is an opportunity to, have a mantra: think like a CEO, plan like a visionary, act like a Buddha. That's my personal quote that I use everywhere, and that's how I really live. Like, is it really a pain point if you stick to facts and stats? Like, nobody intentionally goes out to go for you. It's not Game of Thrones where we're sort of, trying to dethrone each other. And I think if you take the story out and you stick to the facts and stats, people are just trying to survive. And that's the biggest thing I do is I eliminate the assumption, and we're not allowed to assume in our office. We have that as a rule. So we have 5 rules, and one of them is absolutely no assumption. Always ask questions and stick to the facts and stats, and that gives you a great ability to be anchored in a situation and not run around screaming with your hands in the air and go, oh my God, this happened. But every single time something happens, you can increase your mental muscle. You're flexing a new part of your brain, a new part of experience. You can ask for help in different areas. So there has been painful moments, from trademark issues to publishers that have completely undelivered, to all sorts of things. But from those moments, I've just become clearer and savvier and more tenacious and love what I do even more. So I think that pain points can be miserable or they can be exciting, and you just have to see it as everyone goes through that in business. It's a growth period. It's a challenge. It's an opportunity to learn.
Oh, I love that. And I'm right there with you. I always look at pain points as opportunities. I don't believe in problems. I believe in opportunities. Yeah. And we're like that as a team. When things come up, great, this is an opportunity. And it shifts that mindset from, oh my gosh, it's a problem.
And I think the one resounding thing is you're allowed to feel hurt. You're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to feel, I've got this beautiful, amazing sponsorship with Audi, and I'm so grateful when someone backed into the car at a conference and didn't leave a note, and I just could not believe it. And we were out there with the resort managers, and I felt so. I felt like it was such an injustice that someone would have the audacity to do that and just drive off. Mm-hmm. And so you're allowed to feel upset and angry. I think you have to own your emotion, but you need to feel it and move on from it and figure out what to do next. But the problem is people push that away. Mm-hmm. They don't want to recognize when maybe an employee they thought was going to be amazing, maybe did something, or they felt untrustworthy, or they felt hurt by something. Like, it doesn't matter what gender, what age, what title we have, we all have feelings, and you're allowed to recognize that and think, ouch, that was really tough, or that hurt, or that makes me sad. And that's very, very important, because that's a raw first emotion, and don't push that down, but then get into military mode and think, okay, what are the facts and stats around that? And then don't push it down and just be really realistic.
I know, and I love that too. I think that for me, it's I absolutely do feel it, but then I give myself a time. And so it's okay to be upset for a day, or it's okay for you to be upset for 2 days, whatever that may be. After that, let's unpack it a little bit and let's see what's going on. Because sometimes there's layers. It could be stuff that's been building up, and the smallest thing that could occur, then you get your emotions get heightened. And I think that sometimes when we unpack some of those layers, there's a deeper meaning to that, but you don't realize it till you have that, brain vessel pop moment, for you to actually sit back and go, what is really going on here?
Yeah. And I think sometimes, I said at the beginning, life's by choice, not chance. Things are going to happen out of your control, but it's what you do with that. And the reality is you're not always going to have the best first reaction, and you're not always going to be the most amazing leader or the most amazing mother or father or what, you're a human. And I think that we just have to give ourselves permission to be real. And that's a really, really great place to sit from, but also be smart and be intelligent and make good decisions and be calm and trust yourself a lot more and use your own IP and build from your own experiences. And it's okay and it's exciting to do that because it's very liberating.
I think it is very much it's how you respond and how you react to any situation. So the other question I have for you, Nikki, is since you do a lot of work with corporates, SMEs, companies, entrepreneurs, individuals, what do you think is the number one reason or one of the number one reasons that most individuals or businesses fail to succeed?
Well, I think there are three things: clarity, consistency, and courage. Those are really the three things. Clarity, and they set a goal in the beginning, but they forget to review it on a regular basis. I'm a real fan of the 90-day plan. And also, as we evolve and grow, the goals, needs, values, and changes to the landscape need to be reviewed just as fast. And so often we put a plan in place that might have been right for the beginning, but it's already obsolete very quickly. So in today's society for business, we have to be agile. The other thing is consistency. So we spoke about healthy, wealthy, wise. So setting up habits which enable you to sustain results, winning weeks, planning your week out and integrating your business and your personal life as one enables you to have sustainable success, not just peaks and troughs. And the third thing is courage to have think tanks, courage to think about what you really want and to listen to your gut, to identify your core values and to also find out what your staff value the most. Courage to ask questions and to press pause. There might be time when your sales are a bit slower because you're refocusing your business. So it's understanding the visionary aspect behind what you do and not a knee-jerk reaction. So, clarity, consistency, and courage are three crucial elements for long-term success. And that also comes down to legacy and planning and building the right teams around you. Those are really, really great anchors to think about that you don't want to burn out before you get there. And also the old rules don't apply anymore. We need a new set of hard drive rules around planning weeks where we do put time in for health and well-being. We do eat well and we do spend time with family and friends because that's what's going to make you a great leader. It's also what's going to have sustainability and that you enjoy the journey along the way of running a very, very powerful business, whatever size it is. You're not determined by the turnover. You're determined by what you feel success looks like and how you feel every day when you get up.
And I think that's one of the things that I stumble across quite often when I'm speaking to businesses or individuals. They're good at planning business, but not planning life. And this is where they fall down. That's
right. You have to be the CEO of your business and your life. That's the ultimate success. That's the ultimate leadership. It's knowing that everything is in some kind of plan and integration and not just leaving one thing as collateral damage. It's so true.
So, Nikki, another thing that we'd love to ask our woman of inspiration is to leave 3 shiny golden nuggets for our listeners. So what would be those 3 shiny golden nuggets that you would like to leave for our listeners today?
That's a great question, Catherine. I think I'd have to go back to my personal mantra and the one that I write about a lot, which is think like a CEO, plan like a visionary, and act like a Buddha. Whatever comes your way in life, just step back, divorce the story and stick to the facts. So think like a CEO is who do you have around you that you need? What questions do you need to ask? What information do you need to make a good decision? And look at the bigger picture. Be the CEO of your life as well. So plan like a visionary means what is happening right now, is it really a big deal in the scheme of things? I think having a sense of perspective, a sense of vision and dreaming where you want to go and understanding where things fit is crucial for decreasing stress and understanding, when to just let things go. Often people hang on to stories and they try and convince themselves that all these roadblocks exist, and mostly it's in your head. And that brings me on to the third thing is act like a Buddha, taking time out to be the best version of yourself, to be calm, to be centered. Even if it's 60 seconds just to press pause, you don't need to reply to an email straight away or respond to a question straight away. We need to slow down a little bit and be centered and be present. And there's a really powerful thing that comes from when you lead from within. We're all leaders in life. We all have a ripple effect, whether it's our kids, our family, friends, or those that we lead at work, the clients and the ones that we might influence without even realizing it. So really being centered and knowing that you're in your honest truth and that you being the best version of yourself is the greatest gift you can give. So whatever's going on in your life, your business, your goals, your planning, hashtag you got this. Just think like a CEO, stick to the facts and stats, plan like a visionary, have perspective on what's happening. Is it really, really part of the bigger picture and going to affect anything long term? And then just be calm. So whatever is happening, there is always a solution.
I just love that. And I love the hashtag you got this. I love CEO, Visionary and Buddha. Thank you so much for our 3 shiny golden nuggets. So Nikki, for our listeners, where's the best place they can find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram like a kid. I can't help it. So N Fogden-Moore, and also the vitalitycoach.com.au. So a few changes coming up in the next couple of months with my site. I'm going completely the opposite direction and streamlined, which everyone's like, you're crazy. We love your site. So lots of evolution for me, but all my podcasts, my free blogs, worksheets and everything are on the vitalitycoach.com.au, and also the show on iTunes, The Vitality Coach. And Catherine, thank you so much for having me on the show. You've asked some great questions. It's been such a privilege.
Thank you so much for your wisdom, your wealth of wisdom and knowledge. And I can't wait for our listeners to connect with you. You're awesome. So thank you so very much, Nikki.
You're so very welcome. And we do sign copies of the book. So even though they're available online by Amazon and Booktopia, when you buy Vitality or Fitpreneur, I always like to do little signed versions via my website and put some secret sauce in there as well. So anything we can do to encourage your listeners to live a life they love and build a business they're proud of, I'm happy to help wherever I can.
Love it. And I highly recommend for our listeners to get her latest book, A Fitpreneur. Awesome. Golden nuggets all along, right through the whole book, and you'll really enjoy it. So thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
That brings us to the end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed the show, as it is my mission to reach out and inspire as many individuals like you. And one of the best ways to help us achieve this goal is by giving us a good review on iTunes. It's easy and it only takes about 10 seconds. If you have any questions or special guests that you would like to hear from, please send us an email to support@catherineplano.com.au and we will get right back to you. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook at Catherine Plano. That's it for now. Thanks for listening. Until next week, please take care.